Hello and welcome to today's session on private networks. I'm Hima Kadia from TeckNexus, and we are delighted to have both George and Venky joining us today from Trilogy Networks. Invences recently won TeckNexus Award for Excellence in Private Network Deployments for Agriculture sector. Trilogy Networks was a key partner in the successful deployments. We are going to talk to both George and Venky for this specific deployment as well as their larger solution for other private network sectors. Welcome, George and Venky. Before we start our conversation, I would appreciate if you can take a few minutes to introduce yourself as well as introduce Trilogy Networks. Thank you.
I'm happy to do that, and thank you for the opportunity to join you today. As you mentioned, George Woodward, I'm President and CEO of Trilogy Networks, Inc. Trilogy is focused on digital agriculture right now, and we're deploying a network that we're essentially referencing as a soil-to-satellite sensing network to really digitize the 900 million acres of farmland across the U.S. and then addressing the sort of total population of 2 million farms in the U.S. and eventually the 570 million farms across the nation. When Venky joins us, Venky is a CTO, and he can talk a little bit more in depth about the network, the AI structures, and the highly secured cloud network that we have. My background is about the last 25 years working in telecommunications and cloud computing, primarily focused on rural America. So when Venky and I pivoted the company, Trilogy Networks, 4 years ago to digital agriculture, while we were new to agriculture, we were very familiar, very comfortable with rural America, and we have a strong set of relationships and network across rural America. So that's kind of our beginning. We began the company 12, 13 years ago. Again, primarily focused on telecom and cloud computing for rural America. So thank you for joining us, Venky. And again, Hannah, thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Venky, since go ahead.
Short introduction about myself. I'm co-founder of George and Trilogy Networks. We've been business partners for more than 2 decades. We've done lots of ventures together. This one is pretty close to heart and exciting because of the fundamental nature of the transformation that it brings into for agriculture, and we're really excited about what we are building because it's truly the biggest gap in digitizing agriculture, and what George referred to as the soil to satellite sensing network. We got a lot of satellite data coming in, but what's lacking is the ground-based data, what we call as ground truth, that acts as an anchor and reference point for all things that you get from aerial and satellite data. And fusing that data together, it's fundamentally transformative on understanding agricultural meteorology and the ability to predict and plan and provide insights to the farmers. When to do, what to do is fundamentally the simplest and fundamental question every grower has. And with the rapidly changing weather systems, and that's becoming a must-have for growers today, and that's what we are fulfilling.
Yeah, thank you for that introduction and that brief breakdown. In fact, my first question was going to be to understand really the big overview of this private 5G deployment and some of the key challenges that you might have faced there and how did you address them. So those were if you can give us a broader view, that would be a good start.
Go ahead, George.
Well, I'll take the lighter side of that and then pass the baton to Venky. But just specifically, some of the challenges that we encountered and the common challenge that exists across rural America and across all farmland on a planetary scale is connectivity. And so we think of connectivity, Hannah, today as being able to enter into a data session or have a phone call on our mobile devices. When it comes to agriculture, it's some of the similarities sort of exist between the two, but really are much more common to IoT connectivity. And we really have connectivity as a challenge, both in cellular and in IoT across all farmland. And that is really because the population is so sparse. So on a 4G and 5G system, our immediate challenge was, where do we find that signal? What is the signal strength? Where does it propagate? How does it propagate? Where can we use public? What are the challenges associated with deploying private networks? What are the costs with that? So many challenges we face that were all really had a common thread around connectivity in rural. And the biggest thing that Trilogy is impacting, I would say, at its core, and Venky will correct me, and he'll do a very good job of adding color. But if we focus first on connectivity and the challenges associated with that, we'll quickly get into the phenomenal things that Trilogy is achieving in bringing this digital transformation, accelerating digital transformation of agriculture. So, Venky, I know I keep it way too basic for you, but I at least set that bar at connectivity. If you want to take it from there.
Sure, yeah. The fundamental challenge is we are moving from basic connectivity to what we call as cloud interactivity. When we can make the autonomous devices and the network and the devices in the ground, both for sensing and also for autonomous operations in agriculture, truly interactive with the cloud, then you open up a completely different paradigm of computing capabilities and autonomous capabilities. Today, we don't have that. That's the biggest technical challenge we are solving for. With that, as with any other systems you have seen, the moment they are cloud enabled, they fundamentally transform both the operational models and business models. And we are on the cusp of that. And that's been one of the biggest challenges, as fundamental as getting more uplink data than downlink data. Much of the networks designed today are for consumption rather than for generation. So we got to turn that upside down. And then how do you then plan for RF propagation? How do you design your network for those kind of use cases? Those are kind of some of the technical challenges, and also the sheer size of farmlands and the ability to provide coverage at large scale, at the economics that it makes it a meaningful business case is another challenge we have to go through. And then the whole fragmentation of the industry itself. When you have to have today, the autonomous equipment manufacturers fundamentally have to deal with assuming there is no connectivity or interactivity, and onboard a lot of the compute infrastructure right onto their equipment, which is making their become very expensive, and no visibility to how that autonomous equipment is performing on the ground. We got to take away that kind of friction and be able to bring that devices and equipment connected to the cloud, so they have full control and remote operations of those devices. And on the adoption side, from the farmers and growers that are using this equipment and the autonomous devices, that's a challenge of usability and adoption and integrating into their operations. It cannot be something different from how they are already used to doing things. You got to integrate that into their existing operations. Those are some of the operational challenges we got to go through as well.
And one of the things that I think you'll find with Venky and I and the rest of the team at Trilogy is we can take a very short question and deliver an extremely long answer. So we're very good at that. But in the spirit of making the answers even longer, very much to your point about some of the challenges associated with, very specifically with 5G, I just want to capitalize on two things that Venky said. network design is different, and it is essentially upside down because we're net generator of data with our high bandwidth and very, very large voluminous imagery information, and that imagery takes a lot of forms, and I'm sure we'll talk more about that as we go along. But Venky also hit a second thing that I think is very critical and very key to the 5G, 6G, and beyond that Trilogy is embarking upon, and that is this whole movement toward miniaturization. When we look at the large traditional equipment that farmers use today, there's many, many reasons why that got so big and so large. But the real movement, we believe, the real movement in the future is toward miniaturization, and that's miniaturization and automation. And 5G, 6G, and beyond technologies are absolutely critical to accelerating and creating the adoption for that miniaturization. We've got to offload the compute capability, and we do that with highly secured, highly reliable 5, 6G and beyond broadband connectivity. That's how we can achieve miniaturization. That's how we move toward the economics that drive mass adoption. There's a very long answer.
Thank you. Thank you for the long answer. So now that looking back, you're leveraging a number of technologies. I wanted to ask specific on the precision farming. So how does that help taking the 5G, taking the edge computing? You mentioned about IoT devices, and of course there is a lot of analytics on top of it. So how did this combination help you to achieve the precision farming?
I'm guessing that the question is around the practical application. If it's not, I'll defer to Venky. But in very, very specifically, Hannah, what Trilogy is providing the growers today are really decision support tools. So a typical farm that we focus on is between, and these are larger farms, and the reason we're focused on larger farms today is, number one, the economics are more supportive of adopting technology and experimentation, and you don't get to be a large acreage farmer without knowing what you're doing and without having done it for a long time. So the big thing is, for our focus today on these larger farms, not corporate farms, but larger family and some corporate farms, is the economics are better, and these are very highly experienced individuals that tend to be early adopters. So with that, we're providing decision support tools that make it easier for them to do all of the things that they know how to do today and have done very well for multiple generations. Very quickly, in the spirit of a long answer, these larger farms really are made up of or comprised of fields, a field being 40 or 80 acres or 160 or larger, upwards of potentially a 600-acre single field of land. These are spread out over 100 or more, sometimes 200 square miles. And so these decision support tools that are provided by the underlying 5G, 6G technologies and the edge compute and the software are really easily conveying the soil conditions currently, the weather conditions currently, the forecasted weather, the forecasted soil. So they all go in to making it much more precise for the grower to do what they know how to do. And if that grower had 40 acres, they could see it, smell it, kick it, they would know what to do, and they would only need us a modest bit. But because it's spread out over 200 square miles, or a very vast difference with many different weather conditions and soil conditions and soil types and analytics and on and on and on and on. It's the digitalizing all of that information and presenting it in a almost a happy face, sad face, grimace face fashion, so they can make the decisions for those precise field activities that they already know how to do. We're simply reducing all of that to a dashboard. Venky, did I come close?
Yeah. You walk through a specific use case of the customer base we are working with. In terms of the data we collect and how that data is turned and the stakeholders around the growers, we are focused on measuring data in weather, soil, water, crop, yield, and carbon. And these are kind of fundamental data that has to be gathered for any kind of agriculture operations. And that data is then used to deliver, I have one example that George gave us, the planning activities. What do I have to do when, in terms of preparing my land or spraying nutrients or planting seeds and harvesting, looking for disease. The more we can use this data to simplify and deliver insights as to what to do when, is the starting point. And then you can layer upon that additional value, everything from seed selection to understanding soil moisture to understanding irrigation and how well your plant is growing. There's totally science behind it, and that science is driven by the data we collect. That's a fuel to deliver all those science and turn them into very usable insights for the growers. Seed selection, crop disease forecasting. When certain conditions are very ripe for disease to germinate and spread. That's very good to know in advance. And then weather impacts, hurricane or flooding or extreme dry heat, all that have impact on your yield. So the ability to understand that and forecasting that in advance gives more control to the grower in an otherwise uncontrolled environment. So that's kind of the starting point for us from our sensing networks, and then you can layer upon that, feeding those models into your equipments and autonomous operations, your overall business planning. If you look at the farming as a business, how that impacts your overall business, from purchasing inputs to assigning resources, managing resources, and your revenue. It just goes on and on once you have the basic data layered with the foundational models, layered with end user solutions, not just for the grower, but the entire ecosystem, the companies that sell to the grower for the inputs, the companies that buy from the grower, the banks and union and the insurance companies that finance and insure the products. Everybody wants the same intelligence. And that's what we're doing is basically foundational to bring all that together into an ecosystem.
Thanks. So definitely the farmers are benefiting both from cost perspective, efficiency perspective, and also productivity perspective. So how do you see this solution? I mean, from a perspective of packaging it so that it can be deployed or scaled to other farms. I think this was one of the things you had mentioned, that you're taking it from, extending it to a large number of farms, the same solution. So all the benefits that you mentioned, is there a solution that can be redeployed, packaged in a way that it can be scaled?
That's good. Let me just add to that what we were just talking about in terms of the challenges we had with the network, right? So to add to that, you can be building one network and showcasing the value is a great first step. But then the most important step for us to scale this will be to the ability to productize this as a package that can be redeployed in kind of in a rinse and repeat model. Design, install, deploy, activate the network and operate the network. That requires us to be able to standardize on all things the network, from equipment selections to design network design to deployment strategies, orchestrating the deployment for day zero operations and day one operations. That's part of the partnership with the Invences, where we are building tools automate much of these activities, which are otherwise very offline today. We are creating digital workflows to automate the entire network design, build, and operate models.
Josh, do you want to add something or?
No, I think I think I was going to go down another path. I'm sure we'll get to it, but thank you, Venky. We'll go from there.
Yeah, I think I had another question, which was more on the, I mean, in rural areas, definitely connectivity is an issue. So I wanted to know beyond farmlands that you're addressing these connectivity gaps, is there anything else that you're addressing or any other use cases that you're addressing for the underserved areas with this kind of a deployment?
Yeah, no, that's an excellent question. When we first entered into this, we viewed it from a rural perspective, and so we saw as an opportunity from a network deployment the ability to provide value across the entire ecosystem to include energy, so agriculture and energy, and then rural enterprise, from responders to hospitals to the 5 million rural enterprises that exist across the United States, and of course on a global basis. So there were many things just on energy, Henna alone. Again, on the U.S. because we're domestically focused right now, but we have a view to sort of planetary dominance, is what we kind of humorously point to, because the opportunities are just they're limitless. But in the U.S., we have 1.6 million operating oil and gas wells that are absolutely right for digital transformation. Today, the state of the art is really around SCADA systems, and these are back almost teletype TTY sort of technology. So those 1.6 million are absolutely ripe for digital automation. There's 2.6 million miles of pipeline that across rural America that's not connected. 325,000 wind turbine mills. So that's just a sprinkling of the opportunities on the energy side. And Venky mentioned earlier that we have a focus on carbon and carbon capture, carbon measurement, carbon sequestration, carbon marketplace. That just goes on and on and on and on. And from a sustainability and regenerative, it's the sky's the limit. So just in those two segments, we can keep ourselves busy and essentially create, change on a planetary scale just on those. But when we look at what we also offer enterprise across all of the other segments, really the sky's the limit. So an absolutely wonderful question. I will add kind of a tail to the previous question. It is very important that we scale. I mentioned miniaturization, but when we talk about farming, I said that we were focused on large farms today, and I gave a few of the reasons why we're doing that. We're early stage, and of course, the punchline is we focus on it because we can. But our goal is to bring this down to very small farms. And when I say very small farms, I mentioned fields as small as 40 acres. We really want to, and the United States Congress have tasked us to bring this scale down to an acre, 5 acres, to a hobby farm, to very microscopic. So the ability to offer solutions that can be embraced and afforded and offer benefit has to be brought down to extremely small. And of course, the way that has been achieved over the last 10 to 15 years is with cloud native. And that is everything that we're doing as a company, as a corporation, is focused around achieving that scale. And it's cloud native, AI, high bandwidth, very high efficient connectivity. So that's sort of spirit of very long answer again.
Absolutely, George. And in fact, that aligns very well with my next question, which was going to be like, what are the some of the advancements that you envision, or even trends that you envision for implementing private 5G, not only in agriculture, but the other sectors like energy that you mentioned. So I think it addresses like the trends or the focus areas that you're going to enable with the standardization of the solution and going for the small farms. But if there is anything else that you would like to add from the future advancements or trends perspective, both you and Venki, that I would appreciate that.
Go for
Yeah.
it, Venky. It's big.
Yeah. No, the simple message is we're just getting started on this. If you look at what this data is going to fuel, right? We right now we use the data for what I call as bespoke AI models. You develop model for that, for this and that, which is where the starting point for this the AI industries today, across many other industries, not just agriculture. But what is going to lead to is what we are hoping for that will lead to is foundational models across agriculture, across geographies, across different kinds of crops. So to borrow Sam Altman's words, the agentification of agriculture using AI is where this will all lead to. And our goal is to be that fuel, the data, the essential fuel for that agentification is the data that we bring together, standardize the data, and make that available. And For this identification, from basic agronomy planning to crop modeling to yields, and then that's more at the farmer level, and then you can layer upon that more governmental levels, continental levels, planetary level modeling for our whole food system. Those are all, I think, we're just in a very early stage, the cusp of those kind of transformation, and kind of feels proud that we are agent of that kind of transformation.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. That's pretty much what I wanted to know about this private 5G deployment. So really appreciate your time, both George and Venki, and your inputs. If there is anything else that you would like for the audience, much appreciated.
I would, Henan, thank you for that. Thank you for that offer. The Invences partnership really allows us to focus on the things that Venky just captured and not have to be trying to essentially eat the elephant in a single bite. We offload that 5G and 6G technology where we can now focus on those key things that are going to really create change on that planetary scale. And Venky mentioned, the AI. I really want to leave you with one last piece that we're allowed to focus on through this partnership and a few other partnerships that you'll see being released over the next just little while. But it's about the creation of an operating system that allows the easy onboarding of innovation across the millions and millions of software developers across the globe. What we're essentially trying to do, in addition to creating this connectivity and this cloud native AI based culture, is to promote an operating system much like iOS or Android that allows Trilogy then to expose this connectivity, which we believe will create the greatest change. It will be a seed change by just unleashing the innovation of millions of developers that can focus on agriculture, focus on energy, focus on the things that have not been available to them because of the lack of cloud native, high bandwidth, highly secured connectivity across very sparsely populated areas across the globe. There's my pitch.
Yeah, no, George summarized it well. The networks are what we call as essential infrastructure for whatever I talked about, right? And we're kind of blessed to have that domain expertise on converging telecom network systems, cloud computing, big data, AI into the single stack. And that's essential for the vision that we're building for. Yeah, so coming together, and thank you again for the time and interviewing us, and happy to be available for any more questions. And you can find us on LinkedIn and reach out to us to discuss more.
Thank you. Thank you, George. Thank you.